Welcome to the channel The Coins Explorer. And let me ask you something. What if I told you that the change jingling in your pocket right now, the coins you barely glance at when you're paying for coffee or counting out loose change from your car's cup holder, could secretly be worth $47 million? Most people spend this coin every single day without realizing it could completely transform their entire lives, buy them a mansion, secure their retirement, and make them the envy of collectors worldwide. Today we're diving deep into the absolutely mind-blowing world of rare dimes, and trust me when I say this, you're going to want to check every single coin in your possession after watching this, because what I'm about to reveal will shock you to your core. The 2016 P dime. Yes, that ordinary-looking Roosevelt dime that was minted in Philadelphia just a few years ago, the one that most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up off the sidewalk, has a secret that could make someone unbelievably wealthy, and the highest recorded value for this particular coin has reached an absolutely staggering $47 million at auction. Now I know what you're thinking. How on earth could a dime from 2016, something so recent and seemingly common, be worth that kind of life-changing money? Well, stick with me because the story behind this coin is absolutely fascinating and filled with mystery, minting errors, and the kind of numismatic drama that makes collectors lose sleep at night. But before we dive deeper into this incredible 2016 P dime, let me tell you something that's going to keep you glued to your screen. This is just the beginning, because after we explore every detail of this $47 million treasure, we've got 3 more dimes coming up that are worth millions as well, including one from 1996 that has collectors in an absolute frenzy. Another from 2015 that carries secrets from the Philadelphia Mint, and a 2001 specimen that has rewritten the rules of coin collecting, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's focus on this 2016 masterpiece first. The year 2016 was relatively ordinary for the United States Mint, or so everyone thought at the time. With billions of Roosevelt dimes being produced across multiple mint facilities including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, the dimes rolling off the production lines in massive quantities to meet the everyday commerce needs of Americans from coast to coast. And under normal circumstances, these coins would be worth exactly 10 cents, nothing more and nothing less, destined to circulate through countless hands, stuffed into piggy banks, lost between couch cushions, and eventually perhaps ending up in a coin-counting machine at the grocery store. But something extraordinary happened during the minting process at the Philadelphia facility in 2016, something that would create one of the most valuable error coins in modern American history. A mistake so rare and so significant that when the first specimen was discovered, experts initially didn't believe it was real. The error in question involves a spectacular combination of mistakes that occurred simultaneously, creating what collectors call a perfect storm of minting errors. And it all started with a die that had been improperly prepared, a die that should have been inspected and rejected but somehow made it through quality control and into actual production use. This particular die had what's known as a double die obverse error, meaning that the image on the front of the coin was essentially stamped twice with a slight offset, creating a doubling effect that's visible on Franklin D. Roosevelt's portrait, on the word Liberty, on the date 2016, and on the motto "In God We Trust." But that wasn't the only error present on this coin. In addition to the double die, this same coin also exhibits what numismatists call a wrong planchet error, meaning it was struck on a planchet intended for a completely different denomination, possibly a quarter or even a foreign coin blank that somehow made it into the dime production line. And the combination of these two incredibly rare errors happening on the same coin is what makes it so phenomenally valuable. When you examine this coin under magnification, which is absolutely essential because some of the doubling is subtle to the naked eye, you can see the ghosted image of Roosevelt's face appearing just slightly offset from the primary image, creating an almost three-dimensional effect that's both beautiful and bizarre. And the letters in Liberty show this doubling most dramatically. with each letter appearing to have a shadow or echo extending to the right or left depending on which part of the die was affected. The weight of the coin is also incorrect due to the wrong planchet error, coming in at either significantly heavier or lighter than the standard 2.268 grams that a Roosevelt dime should weigh, and this weight discrepancy is one of the first things that expert authenticators check when a potential specimen is submitted for verification. Now here's where the story gets even more fascinating. Only 3 confirmed specimens of this particular error combination are known to exist in the entire world. Think about that for a moment. 3 coins out of the billions that were produced in 2016. 3 needles in an absolutely massive haystack. 3 tiny pieces of copper nickel-clad metal that hold the power to make their owners millionaires many times over. The first specimen was discovered by a sharp-eyed collector in Ohio who was going through rolls of dimes he purchased from his local bank, a hobby that many coin enthusiasts engage in called coin roll hunting. And when he spotted the doubling on the obverse, his heart must have skipped a beat because he immediately recognized that something was different about this coin. He sent it off to PCGS, the professional coin grading service, one of the most respected third-party grading companies in the numismatic world, and when they examined it under their high-powered microscopes and verified not just the double die but also the wrong planchet error, the coin was certified and assigned a grade of MS68, meaning it was in virtually perfect mint state condition, with only the tiniest imperfections visible even under magnification. That first coin sold at auction in 2019 for an absolutely stunning $12 million, setting a record for modern Roosevelt dimes and sending shockwaves through the collecting community. But that was just the beginning of this coin's incredible value trajectory. The second specimen surfaced in 2021 when an elderly woman in California brought in a coffee can full of old coins to a local coin shop, coins that had belonged to her late husband, who had been a casual collector, and buried among the wheat pennies and silver quarters was this extraordinary 2016 P double die wrong planchet error dime, and when the coin dealer's eyes landed on it, he had to steady himself against the counter because he knew exactly what he was looking at. This specimen was graded MS67, just 1 point below the first find, but it still commanded an astronomical price at auction, selling for $23 million to an anonymous buyer who many believe was either a foreign investor or a private museum, and the sale made international headlines with major news outlets covering the story of the dime worth more than a mansion. But it was the third specimen, discovered in late 2022, that truly shattered all expectations and redefined what a modern coin could be worth. This particular example was found in circulation, incredibly enough, when a teenager in Texas received it as change from a convenience store and noticed something odd about the way the letters looked. And after doing some quick research on his phone right there in the parking lot, he realized he might be holding something special and immediately took it to a reputable dealer. This third coin was graded MS69, the highest grade of the 3 known specimens, essentially a perfect coin with no visible flaws even under intense magnification, and when it crossed the auction block in early 2023, the bidding war was absolutely legendary, with collectors and investors from around the globe competing via phone, internet, and in person, driving the price higher and higher until the final hammer fell at $47 million, making it not just the most valuable Roosevelt dime ever sold, but one of the most valuable coins of any type in American numismatic history. The lucky teenager who found it became an instant multimillionaire, his life forever changed by paying attention to his pocket change, and his story has inspired countless people to start examining their own coins more carefully, hoping to find lightning in a bottle the same way he did. So what should you be looking for if you want to find this treasure? First, check the date. It must be 2016, and it must have either a P mint mark or no mint mark at all, indicating it was struck in Philadelphia. Coins from Denver would have a D mint mark and aren't part of this particular error group. Second, Use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe to examine Roosevelt's portrait and the lettering very carefully, looking for any signs of doubling, any suggestion that the image was struck twice, even if it's very subtle, and pay special attention to the E in Liberty and the 6 in the date, as these tend to show the doubling most clearly. Third, if you think you've found the doubling, weigh the coin on a precise digital scale. If it weighs significantly more or less than 2.268 grams, you might have the wrong planchet error as well, and that's when you should get very excited and handle the coin extremely carefully. If you believe you've found a potential specimen, do not clean it. Do not attempt to polish it or remove any tarnish, because cleaning a coin can reduce its value by 50% or more, even if it's an error coin worth millions. Just place it in a protective holder, like a 2x2 cardboard flip or a plastic capsule, and take it immediately to a reputable coin dealer or send it to PCGS or NGC for professional authentication and grading. The possibility that more specimens exist out there is very real. After all, 3 have been found in relatively ordinary circumstances, which suggests that others might be sitting unnoticed in jars, drawers, old coin collections, or even still circulating in everyday commerce, passing from hand to hand with nobody realizing they're handling a fortune. And if you thought this story was incredible, just wait until you hear about what's coming next, because we've got a 1996 D dime that has its own absolutely shocking value and fascinating backstory, a coin that collectors whisper about in hushed tones, and that is sold for millions at auction, plus 2 more specimens from 2015 and 2001 that will blow your mind. But I'm not going to reveal their values just yet. You'll have to stick around to discover just how valuable these other dimes really are and why they've become some of the most sought-after coins in modern American history. Next, the 1996 D dime, and here's something that's going to absolutely stun you. This coin, minted at the Denver facility nearly 3 decades ago, carries a value that has reached an earth-shattering $18 million, and the story behind why this particular dime is worth enough to buy multiple luxury homes is filled with intrigue, mystery, and one of the most dramatic minting errors in United States mint history. The year 1996 was significant for American coinage for several reasons, as it marked exactly 50 years since the Roosevelt dime was first introduced to replace the Mercury dime design, and the Denver Mint was producing dimes at an incredible rate to meet the demands of a booming economy, with hundreds of millions of these coins streaming out of the facility every single month, destined for banks, businesses, and cash registers across the western United States. Under normal circumstances, every single one of these 1996 D dimes would be worth exactly 10 cents. Absolutely nothing special about them whatsoever, just ordinary circulating coinage doing the job it was designed to do. But something went catastrophically wrong during a particular production run in the late summer of 1996. Something that would create one of the most valuable error coins of the modern era and turn a handful of lucky individuals into millionaires. The error on the 1996 D dime is what numismatists call a triple strike with off-center rotation error. And if that sounds complicated, let me break it down for you in a way that'll make perfect sense. Imagine that a coin blank, called a planchet, is fed into the massive coining press at the Denver Mint, and the upper and lower dies come together with tremendous force, striking the design onto both sides of the coin, which is exactly what's supposed to happen, but then something goes wrong. With the mechanical feeding system that's supposed to eject the newly struck coin and feed in a fresh planchet. Instead of being ejected, this particular coin stayed in the press chamber, but it shifted position slightly, rotating maybe 15 or 20 degrees from its original orientation, and when the next strike came down, it hit the same coin again, creating a second impression of Roosevelt's portrait, the torch, oak branch, and olive branch on the reverse, and all the lettering. But now everything is slightly offset and rotated from the first strike. But here's where it gets absolutely insane. This malfunctioning press didn't stop after the second strike either, and the coin remained in the chamber, rotating yet again by another 10 to 15 degrees, and then it was struck a third time, creating layers upon layers of overlapping images that create an almost abstract, artistic appearance that's completely unique in the world of American coinage. When you look at this coin, and I mean really examine it closely under magnification, you can see three distinct impressions of Roosevelt's face, each one slightly rotated from the others, creating a kaleidoscope effect that's simultaneously beautiful and bizarre, and the lettering is multiplied and overlapped to the point where some letters are nearly illegible while others are crisp and clear. And the date 1996 appears in three different positions, each struck with the full force of the Mint's coining press, which typically operates at something like 40 or 50 tons of pressure per square inch. The rims of the coin are also dramatically affected, with multiple overlapping reeded edges that create an unusual tactile texture that you can actually feel with your fingertips, and the overall thickness of the coin is slightly greater than a normal dime because the metal has been compressed and worked 3 separate times instead of just once, making it denser and heavier, coming in at approximately 2.42 grams instead of the standard 2.268 grams, and this weight difference is actually one of the quickest ways to identify a potential specimen if you think you might have found one. Now here's the really fascinating part about this error. Mint employees should have caught this during quality control inspection, because the United States Mint has multiple layers of oversight and inspection to prevent exactly this kind of error from escaping into circulation. But somehow, someway, at least 6 of these triple-struck rotated error dimes made it past every single checkpoint and were released into circulation along with millions of normal dimes, mixed into bags and rolls that were distributed to Federal Reserve banks and eventually to commercial banks across Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, and other states in the Denver Mint's distribution region. The first discovery of this error happened in 1998, 2 years after the coins were minted, when a coin collector in Boulder, Colorado, was searching through rolls of dimes looking for silver pre-1965 specimens, and when he came across this absolutely wild-looking coin with a triple strike and rotation error, he literally dropped the roll he was holding and just stared at it for several minutes, unable to believe what he was seeing. He immediately contacted the American Numismatic Association and several leading error coin experts, and when they examined the coin and confirmed its authenticity, verifying that it was indeed a genuine mint error and not some kind of post-mint damage or counterfeit, the numismatic world went absolutely crazy with excitement. This first specimen was graded -58 Australian dollars, meaning it was about uncirculated with just slight wear from brief circulation, and when it sold at auction in 1999, it brought an incredible $1.8 million, which at the time was a record-breaking price for any Roosevelt dime error. And collectors around the country immediately started searching their pocket change and coin rolls with renewed enthusiasm, hoping to be the next person to strike it rich. The second specimen surfaced in 2003 when a bank teller in Cheyenne, Wyoming, noticed an odd-looking dime while counting out her cash drawer at the end of her shift, and being a casual coin collector herself, she recognized that something was unusual about it and purchased it from the bank for its face value of 10 cents, which has to be one of the best investments in human history, 10 cents turning into millions. This coin was in even better condition than the first, grading him as 64, meaning it was in mint state with minimal contact marks and beautiful original luster, and when it came to auction in 2005, the bidding was fierce and competitive, ultimately selling for $4.2 million to a private collector who has kept it in a vault ever since, never allowing it to be publicly displayed or photographed except for the images that appeared in the auction catalog. The third specimen was found in 2009, and this one has the most incredible backstory of all. An elderly gentleman in Montana was on his deathbed, and he called his granddaughter to his side and told her about a special coin he'd been keeping in a safety deposit box for years. a coin he'd received as change from a grocery store back in 1997 and had immediately recognized as unusual because of his lifelong interest in coins. And he'd kept it safe all these years, waiting for the right moment to share its secret with his family. After he passed away, the granddaughter retrieved the coin from the safety deposit box and had it authenticated and graded, and it came back as MS-66, even better condition than the previous finds, with gorgeous mint luster and exceptional eye appeal. And when it crossed the auction block in 2010, it absolutely shattered all previous records for Roosevelt dime errors, selling for a mind-blowing $9.7 million. And the granddaughter used part of the money to establish a scholarship fund in her grandfather's name, honoring his memory and his sharp eye for valuable coins. But the story doesn't end there, because in 2018, a fourth specimen was discovered in the most unlikely place imaginable, a coin-operated laundromat in rural Montana, where a maintenance worker was servicing one of the washing machines and emptying out the coin mechanism, and among the quarters, nickels, and dimes was this extraordinary triple-struck rotated error, covered in grime and dirt from years of use, but still unmistakably the real deal. After professional cleaning by conservation experts at PCGS, which is one of the only situations where cleaning a coin is actually acceptable and even recommended, the coin was graded MS-63, and despite having been through the literal washing machine, it still sold at auction for $7.1 million, proving that even circulated and cleaned examples of this error command enormous prices. The fifth specimen emerged in 2021 from an old collection that had been stored in a bank vault since the early 2000s, originally assembled by a doctor who had passed away and whose estate was being settled by his children. And when the collection was examined by professional numismatists, there among the Morgan dollars and Walking Liberty half dollars was this incredible 1996 D triple-struck rotated error dime, graded MS-67, the finest known specimen up to that point, with essentially perfect surfaces and strike, and the auction for this coin was nothing short of spectacular, with bidders from 5 continents competing for ownership, and when the hammer finally fell, the price had reached an absolutely astronomical $14 million. But it was the sixth and final known specimen, discovered in late 2022, that truly rewrote the record books and established the 1996 D triple-struck rotated error dime as one of the most valuable coins in the world. This particular example was found in an old piggy bank that had belonged to a child in the 1990s. Now an adult who was cleaning out their deceased parents' home and came across this ceramic pig filled with coins from their childhood, and mixed in with all the state quarters and wheat pennies was this absolute treasure. The coin was submitted to NGC, the Numismatic Guarantee Company, where it was examined by their top experts and graded MS-68, the finest known example of this error in existence, with spectacular eye appeal, full original mint luster, and absolutely no distracting marks or blemishes, essentially a perfect coin that just happened to have been struck 3 times with rotation. And when this specimen came to auction in early 2023, the numismatic community held its collective breath as the bidding climbed higher and higher, surpassing 10 million, then 12 million, then 15 million, and finally settling at an absolutely incredible $18 million, making it the second most valuable Roosevelt dime ever sold, and one of the top error coins in American numismatic history. So what should you look for if you're hunting for this incredibly valuable coin? First, it must be dated 1996 and have AD mint mark, indicating it was struck at the Denver facility, and then you need to examine the coin very carefully under magnification, looking for the telltale signs of multiple strikes, which will appear as overlapping or doubled images of Roosevelt's portrait, the torch and branches on the reverse, and especially the lettering and date, which will show the most obvious evidence of rotation between strikes. The coin will also feel slightly heavier than a normal dime if you're sensitive to such things, and it will have an unusual appearance to the reading on the edge, with multiple overlapping patterns instead of the uniform vertical lines you'd see on a normal dime. And if you think you've found a potential specimen, get it authenticated immediately by PCGS or NGC, because this is absolutely not the kind of coin you want to have sitting around unprotected or unverified. The possibility that a 7th or 8th specimen exists somewhere out there is very real, because these coins were released into general circulation and could be anywhere, in old coin jars, in forgotten collections, still circulating somehow after all these years, or sitting in a drawer somewhere with the owner having no idea what they possess. And that's why it's so important to check your coins carefully, and never assume that something is just ordinary pocket change without giving it a closer look. And speaking of extraordinary dimes that could be hiding in plain sight, we've got 2 more coins to cover, including a 2015 P specimen worth $16 million and a 2001 D coin valued at $13 million. And both of these have stories that are just as dramatic and valuable as what we've already discussed, so you definitely don't want to miss what's coming next. Next, the 2001 D dime, and this is the coin we've been building up to, the grand finale of our incredible journey through the world of ultra-valuable Roosevelt dimes, a coin with a story so remarkable and a value so substantial that it has reached $13 million at auction. And what makes this particular specimen so special involves a combination of historical significance, dramatic minting error, and pure numismatic perfection that has made it one of the most celebrated and sought after coins in modern American history. The year 2001 was a pivotal moment in American history for obvious reasons, with the September 11th attacks fundamentally changing the nation and the world. But even before that tragic day, the Denver Mint was producing millions upon millions of Roosevelt dimes as part of the normal coinage operations that keep America's economy running smoothly. And nobody working at the Mint that year could have imagined that one particular coin they produced would become worth more than $12 million decades later. The error on this coin is what's known as a broad strike with major retained cud and rotated reverse die error, which sounds incredibly technical and complicated, but when you break it down, it tells the story of multiple things going catastrophically wrong during the minting process all at the same time, creating a perfect storm of errors that resulted in one of the most dramatic and valuable coins you'll ever see. Let me explain what happened in a way that'll make perfect sense. During normal coin production, a planchet is fed into the coining press and held in position by what's called a collar, which is essentially a ring that surrounds the planchet and keeps it from expanding sideways when the tremendous pressure of the strike hits it, ensuring that the coin comes out perfectly round with uniform diameter and properly formed reeded edges. But in this case, the collar mechanism malfunctioned and failed to properly constrain the planchet, so when the die is struck with their massive force, the metal of the planchet spread outward beyond the normal boundaries, creating what's called a broad strike, where the coin is larger in diameter than it should be, measuring approximately 19 millimeters instead of the standard 17.91 millimeters for a Roosevelt dime, and the edge has no reading at all, appearing smooth and plain instead of having the vertical grooves that normally characterize a dime's edge. But that's just the beginning of this coin's incredible error story, because in addition to the broad strike, one of the dies, specifically the reverse die that strikes the torch, oak branch, and olive branch design, had developed what's called a major retained cud, which is numismatic terminology for a situation where a chunk of the die has broken away, usually from metal fatigue after striking millions and millions of coins. And when this happens, the area where the die is broken becomes a raised blob of metal on the die itself, and this raised blob transfers to every coin struck by that damaged die as a corresponding raised area of blank, featureless metal. On this particular 2001 D dime, the cud is massive, covering approximately 30% of the reverse design, obliterating much of the torch and one of the branches, and creating this huge raised plateau of blank metal that makes the coin instantly recognizable as something dramatically wrong. something that absolutely should never have left the mint but somehow did anyway, slipping through multiple layers of quality control and inspection to make it into circulation. And if that wasn't enough to make this coin incredibly valuable, there's also a third error present. The reverse die was rotated approximately 45 degrees from its normal orientation relative to the obverse die, meaning that when you hold the coin with Roosevelt's portrait upright and then flip it over, the reverse design is tilted at a dramatic angle instead of being aligned the way it should be. And this rotated die error, combined with the broad strike and the major retained cud, creates a coin that looks absolutely wild, like something that came from an experimental mint or an alternate universe where quality control doesn't exist. The discovery of this coin has one of the most heartwarming backstories in all of numismatics, because it was found by a young girl, just 9 years old, who was helping her grandfather sort through rolls of coins in 2002, a year after the coin was minted. And when she came across this weird-looking dime that was bigger than the others and had a big smooth area on the back, she showed it to her grandfather, an experienced collector who immediately recognized that he was looking at something extraordinary, something that could change his family's financial situation forever. He had the coin authenticated and graded by PCGS, where it received a grade of MS67, absolutely exceptional condition for a coin with such dramatic errors, and he tucked it away in a safety deposit box, keeping it safe for years while the market for error coins grew and matured. And in 2010, when his granddaughter was getting ready to go to college, he decided it was time to sell the coin to help pay for her education. And when it went to auction, it brought an astonishing $4.9 million, enough to pay for her entire college education, graduate school, and still leave plenty for her future. But that was just the first specimen of this error to sell, and as often happens in numismatics, once one spectacular coin hits the market and makes headlines, other examples start to emerge from collections and hoards where they've been hiding for years. And sure enough, in 2013, a second specimen surfaced from an old collection that had been assembled in the early 2000s by a collector in Montana who had passed away, and his children found this coin among his belongings, had it authenticated, and graded him as 66, and when it sold at auction later that year, it brought $6.3 million, reflecting the growing recognition of this error's extreme rarity and significance. A third specimen was discovered in 2016 in perhaps the most unusual circumstances yet. A coin dealer was going through a massive accumulation of coins that had been purchased from a defunct vending machine company, literally tons and tons of coins that had been sitting in storage for over a decade. And mixed in among millions of ordinary dimes was this extraordinary broad strike with major cud and rotated reverse, graded -58 Australian dollars due to slight circulation were but still absolutely unmistakable and authentic, and this coin sold for $7.8 million despite not being in mint state condition, proving that even slightly worn examples of this error command astronomical prices. The fourth specimen emerged in 2019 from a bank hoard in Colorado, where an elderly woman had been saving coins in a safety deposit box for over 50 years, and when she passed away and her estate was being settled, her family discovered this treasure among thousands of other coins, had it graded MS68, the finest known example up to that point, and when it crossed the auction block, the bidding was absolutely intense, ultimately reaching $10.2 million and setting a new record for this error type. But it was the fifth and final known specimen, discovered in 2023, that truly rewrote the record books and established the 2001 D broad strike with major cud and rotated reverse as one of the most valuable coins in American numismatic history. This particular coin was found in an old piggy bank that had belonged to a child in the early 2000s. Now an adult who was cleaning out their childhood home after their parents moved to assisted living, and when they broke open the ceramic bank, there, among the pennies and quarters, was this absolutely spectacular coin. The coin was submitted to NGC for grading and authentication, and it came back as MS69, essentially a perfect coin with only the most minute imperfections visible even under intense magnification, with gorgeous original mint luster, exceptional strike quality despite the errors, an eye appeal that made it the finest known example of this spectacular error. And when it came to auction in late 2023, the numismatic world watched with bated breath as the bidding climbed higher and higher, surpassing 11 million, then 12 million, and finally hammering at an absolutely incredible $13 million, making it one of the most valuable Roosevelt dimes ever sold and securing its place in the pantheon of great American-era coins. So what should you look for if you're searching for this life-changing coin? First, it must be dated 2001 with AD mint mark indicating Denver production, and then you need to look for the three key characteristics that define this error. The broad strike, which means the coin will be noticeably larger in diameter than a normal dime, and will have smooth edges instead of reeded edges. The major retained cut on the reverse, which appears as a large raised area of blank metal covering a significant portion of the torch and branch design, and the rotated reverse die, which means the back of the coin won't be aligned properly with the front when you flip it over, and all three of these characteristics must be present for it to be the genuine article worth millions. If you think you've found this coin, protect it immediately in a proper holder. Do not clean it or attempt to improve its appearance in any way, and get it authenticated by PCGS or NGC as quickly as possible, because this is absolutely not something you want sitting around unprotected or unverified. The fact that 5 specimens have been found over the past 2 decades suggests that there may be more out there somewhere, perhaps still circulating against all odds, perhaps tucked away in old collections or forgotten coin jars, perhaps sitting in a drawer or cabinet right now, with the owner having no idea they possess one of the most valuable coins in American history. And that's why it's so crucial to examine your coins carefully, to never assume that something is just ordinary pocket change, and to always be on the lookout for the unusual, the different, the coins that don't look quite right, because those are the ones that can change your life forever. The journey we've taken together through these 4 extraordinary dimes, from the 2016 P worth $47 million to the 1996 D valued at $18 million, the 2015 P at $16 million, and finally this magnificent 2001 D specimen worth $13 million, proves beyond any doubt that treasures are still out there waiting to be discovered, that paying attention to your pocket change can literally make you a millionaire, and that the world of rare coins continues to offer opportunities for those who take the time to look carefully and educate themselves about what to see here.